Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Business RadioX. This is GACC South Unplugged, a transatlantic conversation with CEO Matthias Hoffmann. I am your moderator, Roger Manus. Welcome to the show. Hi, Matthias. How are we?
Hey, Roger. Fantastic. Great weather here in Atlanta. Great guests here. And summer's around the corner. You can see that outside, right?
Yes, you do have a great view from your GACC South offices here in Midtown Atlanta. But introduce our guest, please, sir.
Absolutely. So we have Karsten Uhlmann with us today, CEO of the Gilde Brewery in Hanover, but also in Charlotte, North Carolina. So, summer is here. We're having our regular tables, our German Stammtische, another word for you to learn in German, right? And what would be a better moment than having a transatlantic talk about beer in the US and in Germany here? So, Karsten, thank you very much for coming. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much for having the chance to be here.
Okay, I certainly feel overwhelmed because I'm sitting with two Germans talking about beer. So you guys are experts, right?
Indeed.
So tell me a little bit about your business. I know I'm going to mispronounce it. Gilde is pronounced.
Yeah, we call it Gilde in German, and
Gilde.
it's the German word for a guild of brewers, which was the origin of the business.
Okay, yeah, I went to your website and long history, right? You guys have been around forever, hundreds of years.
Not forever, but quite a while. So we started 1546.
That's 250 years before the foundation of the US, right?
Yes, that's a while. Yes. So have you been with them the whole time? No.
No, I've been with a predecessor too. Yeah.
Well, that's just amazing because and another thing, we mentioned this about being an American. I've been to Europe before, and everything is lots of things are so old. Streets are old because European civilization is so much older than American civilization. But I digress. So 475 years, but now in Charlotte, what brought you to the U.S. and specifically to Charlotte?
Yeah, so we're a German brewing group, and we've been quite successful in exporting to many countries in the world, and of course the U.S. market, one of the biggest beer markets in the world, and a market which found its way from, let's say, a very few products to a creative scene delivering more variety in beers. So we found that the time is there to go to the US, and we tried to export, and that didn't go very well. And we were not satisfied with this outcome, so we found or tried to find a way to get into the market. We analyzed the market, and we saw that as a brewery you have to be local, at least to a certain degree. And so we looked for the right place. We figured that the Southeast is a good place for us to be, and we had three main reasons to choose Charlotte. One, Charlotte is a beer city. There are many breweries, so people are very much aware of quality of beer, of varieties of beer. So they are open to try new things. Second, there is a strong link with Germany. There is, I don't know the exact number, but in the bigger area, it's more than 200 German companies, which bring a good basis. Also, not only the Germans working there, but everybody who has connections to Germany is more open to the brewery. And then we have a historical link, which finally made it an obligation to go to Charlotte, because 222 years after our brewery was established, a little city in North Carolina was named after our queen, after Queen Charlotte. And not many people know this, but she was a German princess, and she married George III and became Queen of England, but not only Queen of England, but Queen of Hanover. And at this time, this was small kingdoms in Germany. So she was actually the Queen of Hanover at the time when Charlotte was named after her, but she didn't bring her beer, and we corrected this kind of now.
Well, first of all, from the GACC South perspective, Charlotte being home to so many German companies is certainly pleasing to you, right?
Absolutely. We're doing a lot over there. We have our little branch office and chapter structure in Charlotte, North Carolina. We're actually going just 2 days later after that podcast. We'll have our big annual conference there, our SME Business Development Conference. And more than 200 companies, German companies in the region. And our New Year's reception this year, we held it at the fantastic brewery, Gilde.
When you were researching and doing analysis of beer, what's your competition here? Is it the big American brands, or is it other beers based from different countries?
Of course, it's always, have competition from different fields.
Right.
But how I see the US beer market is that after many years of, let's say, a few dominant players only in the market, you had this craft beer revolution, which changed the view on beer. And I would say, like every revolution, this was excessive. And you have a lot of good beers coming out of this, but also a lot of, I would say, very fancy beers. And my feeling is that now the wish for a high quality craft beer with a consistent quality, especially over a long time, is there, that people love it. So of course, our first competition, I would say, is the big standard beer brands, and then every other brewery is a competition, but also somebody who is bringing customers to beer. Yeah, so we also try to attract customers from other products, other liquids, to drink more beer. Beer is something which you can consume in a group in a very friendly, nice atmosphere. That's also what we try to establish in Gilde, to have it as a fun place, to have beer together. We call it Geselligkeit in Germany, so that, or Gemütlichkeit, that you sit together and celebrate as one, not family per family or group per group.
You mentioned, you use the term craft beer. So explain to me what that means.
Yeah, that's a good question, because craft beer from a German perspective means nothing.
Really?
Because every German beer is craft beer from what we see. And craft beer is something which was created as a new denomination for beers, I believe, when Boston Brewing Corporation started with Sam Adams and these products. So what it means is that you go away from highly industrialized production. This could be an idea, but most of the craft brewers have a highly industrialized production anyhow today. So I think it's the level of production you might have and still being considered a craft brewer as millions of barrels. So it's not these small, bigger home breweries which are craft breweries. For myself, my definition of a craft brewer is somebody who loves beer, who is producing it also to create a good atmosphere, to create let's say a group of customers which speak about beer, which come because of the beer, and not just drink it because they are thirsty, but they see a bigger meaning in it.
It's interesting you mention that, because the people who love beer like you're describing it, they talk about the various flavors and nuance that's available. And you tend to not hear about what the mass American brands that you can pick up at the grocery store or convenience store or whatever. But you're saying amount of volume has nothing to do with it, because craft can be sold mass. That's your business model, right? Is to sell as many of these as you can, even though it, by American standards, would be considered craft. Am I phrasing that correctly?
I would say craft is not a question of volume. Craft is a question of, at least that's how I understand the American meaning of craft, is that you build this product with love for it, playing creative around it a little bit. We are limited to do this with our purity law. I think we can maybe speak a little bit about it later, because that's a very German thing for beer. But yeah, that's what I would consider craft beer, making it or reopen it finally to creativity after years of being very streamlined.
Let me chime in here. First of all, new word for you, purity law. We translate that to Reinheitsgebot. Yeah, that's a law 500 years old. Every German knows.
I'm just going to say purity law. Okay.
Right.
And what is it? You said you wanted to talk about it later. Let's talk about it now.
Go ahead.
I think it's the time to talk about it now, and because we have only 2 more days till the day of German beer, which is on Sunday. and it's the birthday of the purity law. In 1516, the 23rd of April, the German purity law was established, and so it's the oldest food law in the world. It has been active ever since, and it says that you are only allowed to use malt, hops, and water for beer. Yeast was not known as a component at this time, so because it was finally in the air and was not controlled in that process, which it is today. So today yeast is the fourth element. But in Germany, it's a real law. It's a legal obligation to brew like this, and it's also the pride of the German brewers to produce all beers like this, and it's the challenge for us being here to work only according to the purity law, but address the more, let's say, the broader range customers in North America expect from beer. So for our brewer, it's fun, of course. He can be more creative, can play more, let's say, with different beer styles. But my limit for us is always the purity law. We don't put anything else in.
So this is your base that you have to stick to. So you work around the edges.
It's not only the base. It's funny. It's like it's the real limits.
Yeah.
I'm ready to do a lot of let's say trial and error productions, especially as we have smaller batches here, to see what our guests like. But I'm not ready to do anything which is not purity law. Since
1516.
Yeah, it's 507 years on Sunday.
Oh, wow. Considering we have indigenous peoples in this country, obviously, but Columbus hit here in 1492. So, yes.
He didn't know about it.
European culture is very, very, very old. That's historically interesting, and the fact that it is still a thing that is dominant and adhered to is interesting. Is the Charlotte Brewery the only one in the States?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So it's the first?
It's finally our first step into the United States. We call it our embassy here. We see it like our the place where we make the brand touchable, kind of, so that people can be in contact with it. And we want to grow from there, going further to other places in the future, and in the long term also build a production capacity.
Can we talk market numbers here? Because, I mean, I looked it up. In Germany, the group is doing, I think, 800,000 hectoliters in market share, which, I don't know, you usually compare everything to football fields. I don't know. In liters, probably in bathtubs, right? I don't know what that would compare to.
It's funny, the United States tried to do metric when I was in elementary school back in the 1970s. And the only thing that really stuck was you can buy soft drinks in liter bottles, 2-liter bottles, but we still sell milk by the gallon. Right. So, yeah, we don't do meters, we do yards. Yeah. So, yeah, it's I don't know what that means when you say all those liters, but it's a lot of beer.
It's a lot of beer, for sure. Right?
So we enter again the discussion with the imperial system and the metric system. So 117 liters of beer is a barrel, and we call 100 a hectoliter, which is kind of easier to calculate. But what we do in Germany, this is in Gilde Brewery, we do like 700,000 barrel of beer. In our group, we do 7 million barrel of beer, or about 7 million barrel, with all the other breweries. What we do here is still in the thousands of barrels, and so we import a lot of beer, but we have let's say the brewery itself is a microbrewery.
Right. Because in Germany it's not, right? I mean, in Germany, all of that's not customers coming to a brewery and drinking that beer. That's a lot of private label production, right? So
no, it's we have different breweries. So we have 2 breweries which don't do this, so they are brand breweries, which is Gilde and which is Feldschlösschen. We have 2 other breweries in the group.
And when you say the group you're talking about, is that TCB?
It's TCB.
Okay, and what does that mean?
It's an artificial name which we gave to our holding when we established it.
In the United States, that's a common acronym for taking care of business.
That's then obviously this was what we had in mind without actually knowing it.
Worked out well.
So
taking care of beer.
So we have these two fields of business. We have our brand business where we have like here, restaurants and all these marketing, and then we have two of our breweries which are focused on contract production, producing for the retail and for other breweries.
When did the Charlotte Brewery open?
So it opened like a year ago. We started in 2022, end of February, after a long time of searching for the right place, delayed by COVID. But we found a very nice place, very happy with the location we've chosen.
Are you pleased with what's happened in this year? The growth?
Yes.
You are? Okay.
Yes.
Where are you from originally?
So I'm from Berlin.
Okay. And where has your career taken you? Where have you lived and worked?
Where have I lived and worked?
Is this your first time living in the States?
It's the second time.
Okay.
It's the second time. I've lived already here for a year from 2018 to 2019 when we did our market research. And now I live also in the area of Charlotte together with my family to bring the business ahead. So in my career, I've lived a lot in the Berlin area. That's really where I was born and grew up. But I've worked in many, many different places.
Just because of this industry? Because
of this industry and because of what we did before. Before we entered the industry. So Mike Gärtner and I, we have established TCB together. And we've been in the merger acquisition business.
And how have you adjusted to life in the States? How do you like Charlotte? Is it a culture shock or an easy adjustment?
I would say it's a very, I don't know if it's right in English, livable city. So, and it's a very nice place. It's a fun place to live. Nobody is from Charlotte third generation or even second generation. So everybody's new. That makes it very easy to blend in. It's also for the kids, for us, it's easy to make friends, to be integrated very fast. And it's a very young city. So the average age in Charlotte is 27 years. In Germany, it's 47. And you see it on the streets. And it's nice weather, friendly, happy people. I would say a very dynamic city, great airport.
Obviously a great place to do business from the German perspective.
Absolutely.
Matthias?
Absolutely, yes. We mentioned 200 German companies over there. We're having business trips or delegations from the state of North Rhine-Westphalia just next month going to Charlotte. A lot of our client base is over there.
Yeah, refresh my memory. The GACC South District includes what?
It's North Carolina down to Florida, and then in the west, including Texas. Plus, we have the Bahamas, the U.S. Virgin Islands, and Puerto Rico as regions that belong to our region as well. Didn't find a business plan for that yet, but Charlotte definitely. I mean, Charlotte and North Carolina. But honestly, if you look at North Carolina, yes, Raleigh, in terms of innovation zones, etc., is top notch. But the German community is definitely at this moment in Charlotte and around Charlotte.
Are you learning to love NASCAR yet? Because Charlotte's a big base for NASCAR operations.
The first time I was in Charlotte, I didn't know what to do in the afternoon with the family because it's not a real tourist city. It's a great place to live. It's not that rich in tourist attractions. NASCAR Hall of Fame, I think, is number 2 or 3. So we went to NASCAR Hall of Fame with the family and did all these things you can do there, changing tires and so on, running virtual races. And yes, we've been to NASCAR races, and it's fun.
It's not Formula One; they go around in a circle,
and so it's
or oval.
It's, let's say, easier to understand and to see.
I was just curious about some of the culture shock because I've worked overseas from time to time on some Olympic work, but never lived long term, and just integrating into a different country and culture is interesting to me. The brewery itself, I went to your website. Describe this to me. People can come in. You have a menu. You have food. You have this is a restaurant with. This is a beer place that also serves food.
I would say we are a full service restaurant. We are a brewery and a full service restaurant. So we have a German brewmaster. We produce a part of our beers in Germany, a part of our beers here. We have like six beer types from Germany, 10 beer types we've brewed ourselves in Charlotte. And the kitchen is a German food oriented kitchen. We had a German chef creating the menu. And it's a big, the setting of the brewery is like a big beer tent, or let's inside beer garden, or in Germany we would call it drinking hall. It doesn't sound right here, maybe, but it allows you
a drinking hall. We understand the purpose, okay?
Yeah. And it allows you to stay hydrated, which is very important. And I always tell this to people when they come on Saturdays in, and we have Stein holdings on Saturday.
Yes, I looked that up. I was going to ask you, what is a Stein holding competition?
So what I tell people when in Germany, we have 3 elements finally for a good event. It's to have fun, to stay hydrated, and the third is Gemütlichkeit. And this is what we celebrate. It's like coziness, sitting together, having a party, and we all sing with the crowd then, and Prosit der Gemütlichkeit, and after this, I explain them that it is so exhausting to do this all day long, because you have to, when you sing this, you stand up and you raise your arm with a stein, which is 5.4 pounds of weight. And when you don't want to do this all evening long, it's exhausting. So we have the sport of stein holding. And we have stein holding contests every Saturday. We'll be the state venue for the North Carolina stein holding competition in October 28th. And it's really, people love it. We have always like 10 ladies, 15 gentlemen competing on the stage on Saturdays. It's a fun thing.
I learned about stein holding and all that stuff here in the US, honestly, because we're doing an Oktoberfest in Houston now, next October or September, maybe even. We might do something in Memphis, Tennessee as well, in that direction. And then I learned stein holding. I'm really not good at it, right? Look at my arms.
So you literally just hold it out until you can't any longer, and the last one holding their stein wins. What do they win?
So it depends. It depends on the contest. So we have a year-long contest ongoing, and we bring the winner and its partner. So the contest started in summer, it ends in summer. We bring them to Germany to see the brewery, to go to Oktoberfest. So it's a nice prize. When you win the competition in the evening, you keep the stein. That's like the small reward you get, but the big one is when you really are the record holder, Summerfest.
Are you doing axe throwing as well?
We haven't really considered it because of liability questions.
Waiver, always waiver.
How much is beer integrated into German culture and life? I mean, is it just ubiquitous? It's just part of who people are? More than the U.S., or?
I would say beer is everywhere. It's finally when you, and we have different legal drinking age. So when you are 16, you go out and start drinking beer. And you have it has changed a bit, but typically you have your brand, the brand which is the brand of your region or of your soccer team or whatever, and you grow up with this brand and you drink it with your friends. And when you see a German bar or restaurant, typically they don't have that many different beer brands. They have different styles, but normally it's one brand. So one brewery is present in this restaurant, and that's what you consume.
What I'm wondering, I looked up the per capita consumption per year per inhabitant in Germany. That's roughly 100 liters, which I'm not drinking 100 liters of beer per year.
That's just a big weekend for you. I'm teasing.
In the US, it's only 72 liters. Do you see any development in that direction that is increasing?
So I don't see the German beer consumption increasing. And it was, I think, up to 150, 160 liters years ago. And it's per capita. It means everybody is counted. Every baby, every. Let's say,
so there are some people drinking a lot more than
I
that.
would say if you consider half of the people not drinking beer, then you see what is the average consumption of a beer drinker. And the German brewers say that a liter per day is a normal consumption number, which is, I wouldn't say recommended, but which is.
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
Well, maybe going down that line, I'm going to mispronounce this because of my American accent. Explain to me Frühschoppen.
Frühschoppen. Oh, that's very. What I learned when we spoke about the different crowds coming into breweries, I learned about day drinking in the US, and then we don't have this description in Germany. We call it Frühschoppen, kind of. So you go to Frühschoppen typically on a Sunday, I would say, sometimes Saturday with friends. You start sitting together playing games, card games, speaking about what happened in the week. Many people do this, let's say, every week or every other week, and you drink beer, but you start, let's say, at 10 or 11 in the morning.
So it's kind of brunch, but with beer?
It's brunch without food. And
because brunch is breakfast and lunch. And,
I understand that.
but so it's not really brunch if there's no food, okay?
No, but when I was young and my father went with us to Frühschoppen, especially, for instance, let's say the Christmas days when my mother was preparing the food, and it was a win-win situation because she had all the time to prepare it, and we went out with our father and came home in a mood which was very appreciating, I would say, of the food. Because if you had 2 beers at 10 or 11 in the morning, then you won't criticize anything, and so that's one of the upsides of having Frühschoppen. No, but here in the US we do it as a way of brunch.
But is this a regular thing? Is it like marketed at your brewery? Come by on.
Yes. So we make it. We call our brunch Frühschoppen, but the Frühschoppen itself, if Schoppen is not a beer, it's what we would call a wine typically, and it's not speaking about any food in this description.
What's the capacity of your drinking hall in Charlotte?
So of our brewery,
where people can dine and drink beer.
So we can have 250 people inside and 150 outside.
So also perfect for events.
Absolutely,
private parties, corporate parties. So do you do a lot of that?
Yes, and it's a very nice thing to do because we have this open setting. We have a stage where people can stand or give a speech, to make people thirsty and hungry. And no, it's a great thing for events. We have a lot of events also with German companies coming to see us.
So there's the synergy from GACC South when the businesses support each other.
Absolutely, yes. But we had, how many people were there last time? I think 150 or something.
150.
Like that. Yeah. And that's a good way to combine transatlantic business. I mean, it doesn't hurt to drink a beer, I mean, it's
interesting. I also saw y'all do Tap Tuesdays. That's just a discounted night. Is that correct for your?
Yes. So of course, there is in every brewery, bar, restaurant business, weekends are the easy thing to play because everybody wants to go out. During the week, you need to come with something special, which we have started now to do card games, Skatabend. So that's a German card game, a special card game. I learned how difficult it is again when I teached it to Americans because you don't. When you start remembering all these rules and you see, I forgot to mention this, and they get more and more confused. No, but what we do is every first and every third Wednesday in the month we want to do card games for the Germans, but also for the Americans who like to understand German culture or to have something different than just let's say trivia.
Right. So, but an attempt to find an event on a weeknight to get people into the brewery to have a little fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and they could be American now, but they've got a German last name from 5 generations ago, and they're wanting to reconnect
Right.
to
It's
the
true.
roots.
And that's also something I learned here, that people say, "Oh, I'm German," and then you think they are, Germans in the US, but they are of German heritage, and
Right.
they call themselves like this, which is nice. So and a lot of them don't speak German, or very, very little, or they are too shy to do it, but they love the German culture and say, "Oh, my grandmother did this, or my mother did this," and then they find the food again or the beer, and they are really regulars.
Yeah, I think in Germany, beer is really a cultural and social institution, right?
Yeah.
So one of the things that we had talked about in email prior was how do you place Gilde in the market? What's the big key there?
Yeah, so for us, we are a local import, which is something which needs some explanation.
Sure.
Yeah? So we place it as a Charlotte craft beer brewery mainly, but we bring in also our products from Germany, and we try to bring this together, to show people that we live and produce on both sides of the Atlantic, that we are a real transatlantic product.
And this is the first step. The goal here is to grow beyond Charlotte.
Yes.
One step at a time. And just overall, I'm not a beer connoisseur, but I certainly appreciate those who are. The various flavors and tastes and how are those created? And do you research what people want and are craving, or do you just come up with something, and then this tastes good and let's market this? What's the chicken and the egg? What comes first, the consumer's taste or just creating it for them? Both?
So what I say, in an industry or which is that old, you have have a lot of styles defined and like structured beer types, and many people are familiar with these beer types and they have a certain expectation. So what you always have to do, you have to deliver to these expectations. So you have a set of beers as a German brewer, which you have to have, which is a Pils or a Helles, or you have to have a Weizen beer and a Bock beer. And so it's typical beer styles. And beside this, and that's what we mainly do here, we can try the guests. So we come with a new product and we try how they like it. Of course, we offer only things which we like ourselves too. Yeah, so but then you see how people like it, and also, of course, the expectation. If somebody comes to a German brewery, they are not actively looking for IPAs typically, but we have our IPAs.
Talking about expectations or requirements, what about FDA? How difficult is that for you guys?
So it's easy for beer. You can import beer. Whenever you have a mixed drink, like a Radler, for instance. So for our Radler, we needed FDA approval. So of course, everything goes through TTB first. So you need an import permit for a beer style. And if this is more than beer, because of a mixed drink, then you need FDA approval. And that takes some time, but typically it's extra work to do.
Right.
Working
in a brewery, do you feel obligated to sample it every day?
No, I don't. And it's one of the things which makes beer tasting different. You have to swallow it, yeah, because otherwise wine tastings, for instance,
they spit it out. Yes,
but it's not. You cannot do it for. You can do it for beer, but then the tasting is not complete because the taste, once you swallow it, is very important for the bitterness, especially. And that means you need a tasting panel which is broad, which is, let's say, because if we have to taste all the beers, of course, because you cannot produce and then not taste it and just let the customer taste.
I just did not know if Früh shopping continued into the early afternoon, into the late afternoon, into the early evening.
And it's finally the important thing, if you are a production company, is so in our production parts in the brewery we have alcohol is totally forbidden during production and during the day.
Sure. Yeah, you have your work standards.
You have the work standards, and you have to do it because it's fast-running machines. It's dangerous, and you don't want to have people taking important decisions under the influence of alcohol.
Right. Well, I was just teasing. What's your favorite beer?
So my favorite beer is a standard Pils. Yeah? So that's how I grew up, and that's what I typically drink. But I love also, if it is a warm day, a nice Hefeweizen. And what I really like here is the creations our brewmaster Willi does, which are the seasonals based on the fest beer, like our spring bock, the bock beers, which we have. They are stronger, so you cannot not drink 2 liters of them without being, let's say, a little bit too far.
Yeah, right. For people who are listening, who are in the Charlotte area or who may be going to Charlotte on business or what have you, where are you located? What are your hours? How can people come try you out?
Yeah, so we are located in what they call Lower South End. It's the address is Devitt Lane or Dewitt Lane. There's the Skellybark station of the Blue Line of Charlotte's famous public transport system, which covers, 0.5% of transport. And our opening hours, so we are open on the weekends from Friday to Sunday. We open at 11 a.m. and we close late in the evening and the night. And during the week, we are open from 3 to 10. And that is something which is only for Tuesday to Thursday for the time being. On Memorial Day, we will start to open also on Monday so that we have a full week of open hours.
And is the beer just available at the brewery, or can people buy it elsewhere?
The beer is available in retail, but not all the product. So we have our Pils, our Red Rooster, the Radler, and our seasonal beer we have in retail. But in the brewery, you get a broader variety.
Right. Many more choices. Okay, Matthias, any final thoughts here as we wrap up here?
Sure. I mean, if you want to taste the beer, yes, the brewery is fantastic. We're having a lot of Stammtisch in our regions with different types of beer. We also have here in Atlanta, where we're sitting right now, at the Tucker Brewery, a beer tasting event on May the 4th. So Star Wars Celebration Day as well, right? So that's in terms of beers, and we have a beer festival coming up, like our Beer Fest here in Atlanta. That's going to happen in fall. As I said, Oktoberfest in Houston, and most likely also in Memphis, Tennessee. And then right now we're running a lot of delegations, German companies here right now from Berlin, here in Atlanta, in Texas as well, Beyond Plastic, so plastic avoidance, smart city technologies, and a lot coming up. Check it out on our homepage, www.gacsouth.com. So pretty much in store for the next weeks. And of course, for the German listeners, again, 15th of June, we have our annual German-American Business Forum happening in Frankfurt in Main, in our chamber of our colleagues, the Domestic Chamber of Commerce in Frankfurt. So that's going to be a good one. Okay. Any final thoughts, sir?
Yeah, so it's to make all the listeners thirsty. So I didn't come empty-handed, so I brought for you guys a special brew our brewmaster made for the Day of German Beer, which is the day after tomorrow, to taste. So for everybody who's listening now, you have to come to the brewery to taste beer, but we can do it even after the podcast.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. No alcohol at the workplace here, right?
Yeah, that's right. We have to find a workaround for that.
Well, this is for work, though, the podcast, right? It's for work. Okay. Well, thank you so much. This has been very interesting. We appreciate your time. As always, you've been listening to the GACC South Unplugged podcast, a transatlantic conversation with CEO Matthias Hoffmann. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Roger Manus with Business Radio X.